For years, the US has been developing the classified Next Generation Air Dominance, or NGAD fighter jet. All that's known so far is that the NGAD would be the US's first 6th generation fighter, and that it would fly alongside a small horde of drones capable of working independently or under the pilot's command. Now, more has been revealed. A lot more. A US Air Force chief has shared some of the key stats for the new fighter jet, which has been officially rebranded as the F-47, and America's enemies are running scared. Why? Because the stats are crazier than previously thought. On May 13, the War Zone, or TWZ, reported that US Air Force Chief of Staff General David Allvin shared an infographic to X that revealed some startling statistics. The image compared the US Air Force's existing 4th and 5th generation fighter jets with the upcoming F-47 and the drones that will fly alongside the 6th generation fighter. That's where the stats come into play. The first thing learned from the infographic is that the F-47 will have a combat range of about 1,000 nautical miles. That's huge for the new jet, as it places its range above anything that the US currently has to offer. With that high range also comes the possibility that the F-47 is being designed to directly confront the issue of anti-access aerial denial, or A2AD bubbles. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, or IISS, an A2AD is supposed to be an impenetrable bubble or aerial defenses. The idea is to use anti-air defense units to create a no-go zone. It's remarkably simple. The effective ranges of the aerial defense systems used create the A2AD bubble, with the implication being that no aircraft can enter that bubble or it risks getting shot down. The IISS cites the example of Russia's attempts to create such a bubble in Crimea. It's deployed several aerial defense systems, including the S-400 and S-300, to the region to cover the skies. Complementing those aerial defenses are the 3K-55 Bastion P and the 3K-60 BAL coastal defense anti-ship missile systems. Combined, these systems are supposed to prevent Ukraine from attacking Crimea from the skies or the Black Sea by forcing Ukraine to operate in a contested region that would have previously been permissive. The tactic hasn't worked out quite how Russia would have wanted, particularly on the aerial front. Ukraine's long-range drones and missiles have demonstrated the ability to penetrate Russia's A2AD bubble several times. However, a Ukrainian fighter jet, including any of the country's F-16s, has yet to be seen entering Crimean airspace precisely because the Russian bubble exists. The F-47's exceptional range is supposed to offer a potential counter to this problem. Being able to fly for over 1,000 nautical miles means a pilot has less to worry about in terms of their aircraft's endurance and range. With those factors out of the equation, they can focus more intently on penetrating A2AD bubbles, opening up the possibility for attacks against territory that an enemy deems extremely valuable. However, there is a caveat to this impressive range. 1,000 nautical miles offers a significant improvement over the US Air Force and US Navy's current stocks of fighter jets. As TWZ states, the range roughly lines up with the Navy's prediction that the F-47 will have 25% more range than any other jet it has in service. In fact, the F-47 might even exceed that 25%. The F-35C has a range of about 670 nautical miles, for instance, which critics in the past have claimed means it doesn't have the range needed to strike enemy targets. Achieving 25% more than that would put the F-47's range at about 850 nautical miles, says TWZ. So the fact that the jet can travel 1,000 nautical miles is extremely significant. The caveat mentioned a moment ago is that the F-47 is supposed to be the figurehead of US aerial superiority for decades to come. Therein lies a potential problem. The US Air Force is already predicting that any jets it builds will have to operate in areas where the counter-air threat extends to more than 1,000 miles. In short, air defense systems are going to get bigger. So, while the F-47's 1,000 nautical mile range makes it capable of penetrating current A2AD bubbles, it potentially isn't future-proofed against better air defense systems, making those bubbles even wider. Except, there's a caveat to the caveat. Allvin's X post didn't actually say that the F-47 has a range of 1,000 nautical miles. It said, 1,000 nautical miles plus. It's not yet known what plus actually means. It could suggest that the F-47 is capable of flying for 1,050 nautical miles, or maybe it can hit 1,250. More information is needed to clarify exactly what plus means before knowing how remarkable the F-47's range is. Furthermore, it's worth accounting for the fact that this range is for the base model of America's 6th generation fighter. Future tweaks to the design are possible either between now and the F-47's unveiling or once the aircraft enters service, which may extend its range even more. For now, the 1,000 nautical mile range is the headline stat. But there are others. After all, what use are long-range capabilities if a jet isn't fast enough to blast through an enemy's territory, avoiding counter-air threats as it goes? That leads to the major second stat. The F-47 will be capable of exceeding Mach 2. There was already a hint that this might be the case when US President Donald Trump announced that Boeing was to receive the contract for building the F-47.
Its speed is top. It's over 2, which is something that you don't hear very often.
And he's right. It's not unheard of for a fighter jet to reach this type of speed, which equates to 2 times the speed of sound. However, those that can, such as Russia's Su-27 and the US F-15, trade their impressive speed for stealth. Though fast, they're easy to spot in the skies and can thus be taken out by a well-placed counter-air missile capable of traveling at even higher speeds. The problem lies in temperatures and heat signatures. The faster a jet moves, the more heat it generates. That makes the jet appear larger on enemy radars and offers a bigger target for heat-seeking missiles. The F-47 will combine its amazing speed with superior stealth capabilities. Beginning with why its speed is so vital, the National Interest summed it up in the first line of an article published back in December 2021. In order to provide real air power where it's needed, the United States doesn't need a fleet of slow and stealthy F-35s standing by on airstrips across friendly African nations. It needs fast air platforms with great fuel range and loitering capabilities that can reach operators in need, provide air support as necessary, and still make it back to an airstrip. It's as if the outlet was describing the F-47 almost 4 years before the stats became clear. The point it's making is that the 2 largest threats to US supremacy in the modern age, China and Russia, are both capable of fielding advanced air defense systems. Those systems are already capable of taking out F-14s, which could hit Mach 2.3 without issue, which is why the US has spent so long focusing on stealth. That stealth focus would appear to make sense were it not for how the outlet believes a war with China, and perhaps even Russia, would play out. Neither war would be a direct fight. Instead, a new Cold War era would emerge in which engagements take place over countries in the developing world rather than in the backyards of the countries fighting the wars. Speed would be absolutely vital to such engagements. Pilots would need the option of bugging out to escape an enemy's area of advantage quickly, while also being able to use their aircraft speed to devastate an enemy with attacks before escaping. None of this is to say that stealth isn't important. It is. That's why the F-47 encompasses it. But the recently released stats demonstrate that the United States has realized that combining stealth with speed is the true path to building a 6th generation fighter. Once the F-47 takes to the skies, it'll have the ability to hit targets over developing nations, as the F-14 and similar speedsters have, and can use its stealth to conduct high-speed strikes against more developed aerial defenses if needed. It's an extremely impressive combo. However, as with the range, there are still things that aren't yet known about how fast the F-47 can really fly. For instance, assume that the Mach 2 or higher speed comes as a result of engaging afterburners. If that's the case, what's the fighter's speed when it's super cruising without afterburners engaged? Plus, how long is it able to maintain its top speed efficiently, and how quickly will it burn through its fuel reserves to hit that speed? Questions like these have yet to be answered, though that doesn't take away from the fact that the F-47 appears to combine the speed of America's non-stealth but super fast fighters with the stealth capabilities of slower platforms such as the F-35 and F-22. In fact, the F-47 may be even stealthier than both. Allvin's X infographic revealed that the new jet will be equipped with Stealth++ technology. By contrast, the F-35 has Stealth Tech, while the F-22 comes packed with Stealth+. This isn't really a revelation, says TWZ. The F-47 has always been envisioned as a tactical jet that will be difficult to observe on enemy radars while producing a reduced infrared signature. However, Allvin's infographic doesn't reveal what Stealth++ actually means. But that can be speculated upon by taking a closer look at the F-22 Stealth Plus technology. For instance, the F-22 has one of the smallest radar cross-sections of any fighter jet. To an enemy, that cross-section appears around the size of a marble. While that doesn't make the jet impossible to spot, it offers the F-22 near invisibility on a radar system. This is important, especially in an era where automated aerial defenses exist. If an air defense system only sees a marble-sized object on its radar, there's a higher possibility that the object will be disregarded as a threat. In the F-22's case, that allows a pilot to get closer to a target without having to worry about evading incoming missiles. Given that the F-47 will feature Stealth++, does that mean its radar cross-section will be even smaller than a marble? It's possible, and if it is, the combination of speed and stealth already covered here becomes even more dangerous. A US enemy wouldn't be dealing with aircraft that have familiar, if difficult to detect, radar cross-sections. They would face a new problem entirely, a problem that could also circumvent the estimated 1,000-mile plus ranges of the future's air defense systems. After all, what use is a massive range for such a system if that system isn't even able to detect the threat that it's supposed to destroy? Beyond that, it's difficult to determine what Stealth++ signifies. TWZ notes that early designs for the NGAD featured canards, which is a wing configuration that places a small forewing ahead of the larger main wing. That seems to run counter to a stealthy design because more wings create a higher surface area to reflect radar signals. It's not yet known if those canards are still there for the F-47. The blurry concept art seen in Allvin's photo suggests that they've been ditched, but it's still unclear. TWZ also notes that Allvin's post doesn't reveal what's being built into the F-47 for counterintelligence purposes. In short, there's a lot that's not yet known about the upcoming jet's stealth capabilities, though the Stealth++ moniker suggests they'll be superior to those seen in the F-35 and F-22. And speaking of the F-22, Allvin's ex-post also says that the US has placed an order for 185 F-47s. Here's why that's significant. This is roughly the same number of F-22s the US has available, at least according to Allvin's graphic. That raises the possibility that the F-47 is intended to be a direct replacement for America's F-22 stock. No confirmation of that possibility has appeared yet. As TWZ notes, official statements from the US Air Force suggest that the true F-47 force structure remains a work in progress, suggesting that 185 the initial order may be an estimate. Still, it's enough of an estimate to give an indication of how much money the US will spend on these jets, both collectively and individually. It's already known that the development program for the F-47 alone is likely to cost the US around $20 billion to complete. In January 2025, former Secretary of the Air Force Frank Kendall also revealed that a single NGAD fighter jet, as it was known at the time, will likely cost 3 times the unit price for one F-35. That brings the price of one F-47 to about $300 million. For 185 of the aircraft, the US will have to spend a staggering $55.5 billion. Tack the $20 billion that will be spent completing the development phase of the F-47 project on top, and that's a $75.5 billion outlay for this new fleet of fighter jets. That seems like a lot of money, and it is, but it's not too far outside of the realm of what the US has spent before to complete a fighter jet program. The F-22 program cost $70 billion, of which $30 billion went into research and development. Perhaps that earlier and more extensive outlay resulted in technologies that will be integrated into the F-47, leading to a lower development cost. That's balanced out by the higher per unit cost to achieve a figure roughly equivalent to the F-22 program only several years later. That's not a bad return when considering the impact inflation will have had on the parts used to build F-47s. As for the F-47 itself, the current timeline suggests when it's intended to take to the skies. Allvin's graphic suggests that the F-47 will be operational at some point between 2025 and 2029. However, this seems unlikely according to TWZ. All that's been seen of the jet so far is concept art, meaning a 2025 flight date seems impossible unless the jet is already near completion and is simply being hidden from public view. A first flight date of 2029 is more feasible, though it still seems unlikely that the F-47 will enter service in that year. More feasible is that this date range indicates when the US Air Force will conduct its first official test flights of the aircraft, with official deployment occurring sometime in the 2030s. That assumption lines up with Air Force Technology's stated planned service entry year of 2030, though it's also possible that the US has accelerated investment and work into the F-47 to achieve an earlier flight date. TWZ asked for further clarification on the matter and received a response from a US Air Force official. The F-47 will fly during this administration. That response suggests that Trump has made getting the F-47 airborne a priority for his second tenure as president. Time will tell if he's successful. All of that covers the F-47 statistics shared via Allvin's X infographic. But that's not everything. In the introduction to this video, it was mentioned that the NGAD project that has evolved into the F-47 includes a small collection of drones that will fly alongside each fighter jet. Those drones are a key part of the 6th generation package because they provide an F-47 pilot with a network of aerial assets beyond the jet they're actively flying. Statistics for these drones are available as well. Allvin's infographic revealed some of the key specs for these drones, which are called Collaborative Combat Aircraft or CCAs. It's now known that the US intends to order more than 1,000 units of these CCAs. Many, though not necessarily all, will be YQF-42As or YQF-44As, which have been designed in tandem with the F-47. The infographic shows that both of these CCAs have flight entry dates that match that of the F-47. TWZ speculates that the US will purchase both CCAs in increments of between 100 and 150, which either means a phased implementation of the 185 F-47s is planned, or all 185 will enter service almost at once, with other drones being used until the full quota of YQF-42As or YQF-44As is built. The US also plans to build around 5 CCAs for every F-47 it manufactures, though it's not yet clear if that means that an F-47 will fly with 5 CCAs or if it will fly with fewer, while the US keeps hundreds in reserve to replace any it loses. Both CCAs are also impressive from a range perspective. Neither matches up to the 1,000 nautical mile range of the F-47. They instead can travel for around 700 miles, which is a range that's been seen for standalone drones before, but not for collaborative unmanned aircraft linked to a manned aerial platform. Still, it's a strange discrepancy. The F-47 has always been assumed to be the primary control platform for CCAs. This lower range offers multiple possibilities. The F-47 may not have use of CCAs for missions that require it to fly over 700 miles. Alternatively, there may be other control platforms in play that allow the US to deploy CCAs as needed, which then link to the appropriate F-47 platform. That raises the possibility of the US being able to switch to CCAs in and out to make up for the range issue, though all of this is speculation at this moment in time. Both CCAs are also believed to have some stealth features, though the degree to which they can evade enemy radars isn't known. It's likely they won't be as stealthy as the F-47 itself, likely due to time and cost constraints. But that issue is balanced by the CCAs being less expensive unmanned platforms, making them more expendable than the jets that act as their control platforms. As for speed, that's where another discrepancy comes into play. According to TWZ, it's generally agreed that the first CCAs are going to travel at subsonic speeds. Of course, that means they won't be able to keep up with an F-47 moving at top speed. This also suggests that an F-47's cruising speed will be subsonic, otherwise its CCAs wouldn't be able to keep up with it. Again, this is speculation. The US may make drastic improvements to its CCAs that bring them closer in line with the F-47, at least in terms of speed and range, before they're officially unveiled. Still, all of this amounts to much more information than previously known about the F-47 and its accompanying aerial platforms up to this point. The stats are still very general. There are plenty of questions left to answer. But what's clear so far is that the US is only a few short years away from unveiling a 6th generation fighter that combines the best aspects of its 4th and 5th generation jets while bringing cutting-edge drone technology into play. So, what do you think about these new F-47 stats? Do they align with what you've heard about the F-47 up until this point? Does what we've revealed in this video suggest that the US is truly on track for building a platform that guarantees aerial dominance over the next few decades? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to The Military Show for more up-to-date videos covering the latest developments in the US military, as well as conflicts in Ukraine, the Middle East, and around the world.